we could go back and we could try to mess with the mirrors, see if we can get some of those other passages open. That is very interesting. I've never thought of a bag of holding being alive. We definitely don't want to run out of torchlight, so we have the threat of losing time, or we have the threat of death. They don't use the yes but, no but. They use the yes and no and if you roll the extreme result, but they don't do the but for some reason. So yeah, Trey doesn't use the but clause. There's got to be a better way to say that. Hey, welcome back, friend. So I think this is going to be maybe the last episode of this Shadowdark SoloRPG actual play. We're on our last hero. It's Tamra. There's a mini for her. So let's go over her character real quick. So Tamra is a human. She has the background of a jeweler. She has a lot of gear for some reason. She starts with a whole bunch of stuff in comparison to our other heroes. And that was just rolled randomly when we made the characters. So she's got a bow, a dagger, and a club. Let's see, she actually has a higher constitution, pretty much average stats, a little bit below average, and then like a, pretty good constitution and wisdom, basically. She was fired for calling out a counterfeit, and that got her sent to the secret pits to go after Shun's Litany, which is our magic scroll, which seems to be raising the dead, these spirits in the dungeon. Okay, so the tools that we are going to be using today, I decided in the last video, let's really mix it up. So this is called Trey, and I'm planning on doing a separate video, kind of a overview of this system. It's really cool. It was recommended to me by a viewer. Thank you very much, by the way, for this. Decided I would check it out, and I was really impressed with it. Okay, so Trey means 3. And there are basically 3 pillars of using Trey. And so the pillars are, if I recall correctly, the Oracle, internal logic, and the unexpected. And Trey basically handles this really well with a 3-dice Oracle system. So just to give you a real quick, something I really like at the beginning of Trey is that they say the paradox of solo role-playing is that the story does not exist until you start telling it. And when you tell the story, ultimately, you are in as much control of it as you want to be. And so for some people, when they solo roleplay, they're going to want to have more control. Some people are going to want to have less control. There's kind of like a spectrum of the level of control you can have. And so that's just something to be aware of. I'll definitely talk more about this stuff. I think it's just like a fascinating subject. I think it's so cool that this exists, that like we can play games like this. Like it's just, to me, it's like magic. View of what that is. So the Oracle tables will show you the 3 dice. There's a D10, a D8, and a D6. And the D10 is your Oracle die. Okay, a 10 is an exceptional yes, a 1 is an exceptional no, and you have no and yes in between. And so then you also have your D6, which is your probability die. And based on how likely something is, or how unlikely something is, it's going to modify the result of your Oracle die. And then the last dice is the D8, which is the detail die. And the detail die, I kind of like the idea of it also being like a quality die, but basically it all kind of works the same way, but with your question, for example, is the door locked? And if it's locked, what is the quality of the lock? The D8 will determine that value. So there's kind of basically 3 through 6 is average, 7 and 8 is going to be like high quality or like a lot of whatever the thing is, and then a 1 or 2 will be your low quality result. So besides the Oracle dice and the 3-dice system, the other cool thing that Trey does is if you ever roll 2 of the same number or all 3 of the same number, you have a random event, an unexpected event gets triggered. And so there's 2 versions of that. There's either like a moderate unexpected event, which is 2 numbers, but if you roll the same number on all 3 dice, then you're going to have a extreme unexpected event. And when you do that, again, you roll all 3 dice and you will look at what it is based on the D8, who is affected by the thing. This is really close to the random event system in Mythic Game Master Emulator, which is something I really like from Mythic. And I normally would use Mythic when I'm solo role-playing with the app, but because I'm using my phone to help with the recording, I don't really have easy access to it, but we will be using Trey today. Also, for today, besides the Solodark rules, we are going to be using the book Knave 2nd edition by Mr. Ben Milton of Questing Beast fame. Really, really big fan of the channel. We are going to use the tables in this book for generating all of our random table stuff. This book is awesome. Not only does it have a very cool game, which I do want to try, I haven't played the game yet, but it is just full of these really amazing D100 tables for all sorts of different cool things. So encounters, magic, textures, tastes, colors, ingredients. I think that's for alchemy. Your equipment tables. There's just so much here. I mean, this is like pretty much anything you want. You want to look for treasure, and this is all, OSR, old style D&D compatible. So I highly, highly recommend this book. Even though I haven't played this system, it is such a great tool for solo role-playing use. Just can't speak highly enough of it. And there's really cool artwork by Peter Moley. So primarily for Knave, we are going to be using a couple of pages to generate things in our dungeon. So in the delving section, we have rooms, room details, room themes. We also have our dungeon things, trap effects, hazards, mechanisms. I think that if we do trigger a random event, we will still use the really cool random event tables from the Shadowdark rulebook. Okay, so jumping into the gameplay here. Let's put Tamra right into the dungeon. And we're going to just kind of speed it all up. We're going to assume that some time has passed since Wolf got sucked through that mirror. And we're staying right in that room from our last episode, the room with the mirrors. And Tamra walks into this room. So she's now seeing the mirrors for the first time. And she sees the body of Indra slumped and laying on the floor. Tamra is playing this incredibly risk-averse. Let's just check and see if there was anything that happened to her on the way to this room in the dungeon. So we're asking the Oracle. So did Tamra encounter anything on the way to this room with the mirrors? I believe is a 10, right? And that would be an extreme yes. So she definitely encountered something. So let's figure out what that was and where it happened. So let's randomize which room the thing happened to her. We'll just roll our D10 for that. So something happened to her in the room with the teeth. Let's figure out what that was. And we're kind of looking at this from the perspective of it being like a flashback. So should we know that she made it into this room with the mirrors? So whatever happened to her, it's not going to kill her. In fact, why don't we just kind of quickly resolve it in like a montage type way where something happened to her and we'll figure out what the effect of that's going to be. So let's roll on the word table for that. So continue. And we'll roll for our now. Continue wealth. Okay. So that obviously makes me think money or treasure. So maybe she saw something in the room that all of our other heroes missed. Maybe there was an opportunity to get some kind of a piece of treasure there. So let's roll to resolve that. So we're just going to go on the treasure 0 through 3 and roll randomly to see what the treasure is. Okay, we got a 99. So, we got a bag of holding virtue flaw. So in magic item attributes, few items are conscious and have personalities that include virtues, flaws, a trait, and an alignment. That is very interesting. I've never thought of a bag of holding being alive. So she found a sentient bag of holding that can probably talk. And let's see, it has a virtue and a flaw. Let's see if we roll for that. Magic items with personalities can communicate telepathically with their wielders. Okay, so she picks up this bag. So it can talk to her. And she hears a voice in her head. And it says, like, finally, thought nobody was ever going to pick me up. And she's like, she doesn't even know how to respond to that. I think that she's probably aware of artifacts and items like this with her experience being a jeweler. And she's probably like, wow, she probably recognizes what her luck is. I guess that I'm playing Tamra, right? So I can decide that. Here are things about this bag that we need to know, and then we can go back to kind of the conversation, kind of get an idea of maybe something it can tell us that can help us. So looking at item personality, we will roll on the D20 for that. And 4, so senses hiding creatures within near but not the exact place. Okay, so this is something that the bag of holding can do. It says, hey, I can tell you when danger's near. I can't tell you exactly, I'll just let you know that it's close. All right, and then the item flaw. So this is something that's bad with the bag. So it does not want to be separated from the wielder for any reason. Okay, so it's like, you picked me up, you are now indebted to me, you will hold on to me, I'm going to hold all your stuff, I'm going to tell you when there's danger around. Do not let me down for any reason. And it's very forceful. And Tamra's like, okay, all right, sure, yeah, as long as you don't, as long as you don't weigh too much. So she now has a magic bag of holding. And should we give this bag of holding a name? I think we should. So let's do that. Should we just name it something like Steve? Steve the bag of holding. Now let's roll for a name. Okay. All right. We will NPC names. Why not? Wizard names. I feel like that's appropriate for a bag of holding. Let's do that. So this bag, she says, do you have a name? Oh, containerist one. And he says, yes, my name is in fact Darj. Are we cool with that name? I'm cool with that name. Okay, so our bag is Darj. All right. And she immediately starts dropping some things in the Darj, so the iron spikes are inside the bag. So coming back, Tamra, and she has made it up to this room with the mirrors. And she walks in and she sees Indra's body. She sees the mirrors. She's trying to be as careful as she can. And she's going to ask Darj, who very likely will know if something is nearby. Is there something in danger nearby? Am I in danger in here? Okay, so that's a no. So Darj tells her, nope, you're good. You're safe. Nothing around here to be afraid of in terms of enemies. And so now we have the option of either messing with these mirrors, which we're not going to do, I don't think. So she has no reason to go and mess with them. She sees the broken doorway and she's going to kind of go up to it from a distance, hugging the wall. This time she is hugging the wall and she's not moving away from the wall. And she's going to kind of look into this room and see what's in there. So we will roll on our table. We'll also roll on the dungeon die to see what the room is. So it looks like it is a passage that goes and curves around. Kind of like that. So she sees that it leads around. Okay, so again, she's going to very carefully proceed down that way. We'll take off some torch. In fact, we'll assume that during her time in the dungeon, she's probably already left like 3 points worth of torch. And she goes and she peeks around the corner to see what's there. So let's roll again on this die. All right, we've got a room with some passageways going. So we've got a room like that, and we'll say that there's been a slope downward, so this passage actually goes underneath this passage. There's a little bit of three-dimensionality here, okay? There's going to be a passage this way, and a passage this way going again underneath the passage that she came from. Okay, so she's like the lower level of the dungeon. And what's in this room? Let's go to our dungeon section of Knave. So what's interesting in Knave is kind of the dungeon has like a theme, and then there are what are called delve shifts where the theme will kind of change. So I'm going to roll for an initial delve shift, okay? So let's roll our D100 for this. We got a 91, and we look at a trap effect. Okay, so there is a trap effect coming into this room. So let's roll up our trap effect. So accelerating. And let's see what the mechanism is going to be. We'll roll for hazard and a mechanism. So the hazard is 98, a web that's accelerating. And the mechanism will be 51, which is a mirror. So we already had a mirror, a web, and accelerating. And we will also roll for a random encounter. On a 1, we get a random encounter. 6, web, a mirror, and acceleration. So this is a really kind of direct interpretation of all that. But as she walks in, she sees that this room is like covered in cobwebs. And there's a mirror in the room. And the mirror, I'm going to say that it's randomly on this platform that's like rotating. As the mirror rotates, it shoots out these cobwebs that kind of get stuck everywhere. Really sticky and hard to move through. Don't ask me why. Just a random thing in the dungeon in the Shadowdark. And she sees that there are 3 passageways. Are there doors closing this off? And yes. The quality is medium, so there are like regular doors in the dungeon. Okay. So we have some options. We could go back and we could try to mess with the mirrors, see if we can get some of those other passages open. Or we could try to open some of the doors here and keep going. And it's okay that we have like information that we know from the last game, that's fine. Given that we know the mirrors up there are trapped and we haven't had to test to see anything up there, I think I'm going to continue forward. I think that we can probably navigate these webs. It might, get us stuck or something. And then the consequence of being stuck will be the time will pass. We could try to burn the webs with our torch too. So, if you've played Skyrim, Zelda, cobwebs like to light up real quick. So yeah, let's do that. So Tamra is going to put her torch up to the webs. And I will do an oracle test for this, rather than it being a skill check. I think so the question is does the torch light up the web? If no, we're going to say that for whatever reason these webs are like fireproof. They're made of something else. So we will check with that. So it's like just a barely no. The torch doesn't burn up the webs. And we will say as a consequence, it takes down a D3 worth of her torch because these webs kind of get sticky, get on the torch. So just one more point of light goes away. Okay. And this mirror thing is still rotating and shooting webs. And I have to imagine that it probably shoots towards her. So let's find out. Does the mirror shoot towards her? And if so, how much web are we talking here? So we got a 8 that she sees the web coming at her and she tries to dodge it. So since we determined normal amount, we'll say it's a normal level check, DC 12. So she's going to roll it with her dexterity, which is -1. So 14 minus 1 is 13. So she just barely gets out of the way. Some of this web kind of hits her on the shoulder a little bit, but it's not enough to keep her webbed in anywhere. We could probably maybe get the room, but there's a chance they'll get webbed and time will pass. So we either push forward, knock out another one of these towards our goal. I'm trying to think of the trade-offs here. We risk a whole new trap, which can hurt us. We've kind of established that these webs will keep us stuck, which will bring down our torch. So I think time is probably the more safe resource to spend here. So let us just try to push through. Does she have anything? I guess she can try to cut at the webs with her dagger. She'll pull out her dagger. I think she's also going to ask, so is there danger nearby? And Darj, the bag, says 10, so exceptionally yes. There is danger nearby. Do not go forward. And it can't tell where, so we don't know. One of these doorways has a lot of danger behind it. We don't know which one it is. So we could gamble a little bit and see if, which door, but we know danger, danger, Will Robinson, danger, Tamra. Better to just back out and go. We'll be very careful about this room with the mirror. If there's great danger nearby, that changes the nature of the situation. So we will back out, come back to this room, drop down another torch. Tamra comes back into the other room. She's kind of like wiping off the web, sticky web stuff. Okay, let's roll for our random encounter. Nope. And let's see, Indra is still there. Tamra obviously doesn't know who Indra is. She just sees a body of like a woman laying there. And I think it's time to kind of investigate these mirrors and maybe start trying to figure out how we can, trigger the trap, what the nature of the trap is. So Tamra's going to investigate and look around the mirrors and see if there's any kind of like a mechanism there. And so we are going to just bump the crap out of the camera, not on purpose. And we are going to pull open the trap mechanisms again in Knave. So looking at the mechanism of these mirrors, 19, there's a chain hanging in the middle of the room. Right in the center of these rooms, there's like a chain hanging from the ceiling, and it looks like it's connected to some sort of pulley. So Tamra is going to reach into her bag of holding into Darj and pull out one of the iron spikes. And she's just going to toss it right at that chain and bounce it off the chain, standing a good distance away from it to see if that triggers the trap. I'm going to say that it's unlikely. Yes, it does trigger the trap. And what kind of trap does it trigger? We'll just roll real quick for that. The chain pull drops arrow traps. Okay. So arrows shoot out of hidden compartments in the walls. So do any of the arrows shooting out of the walls towards the center area, hit Tamra? Very unlikely. So we got a 1, exceptional no, -1. So nope, she's clear out of the way. And look at that, we got 2 1s, right? This is considered a unexpected event that happens. So we'll pull out our table and negative outcome. It's immediate. The D6 is the timing. It interrupts current events. So this happens right away. And then what happens or who is affected? 6, your ongoing objective is affected. So our ongoing objective right now is to get Sheen's litany. So something has happened that is affecting that. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is, the spirits are getting raised. And so it's very negative. That's going to make me ask the question, is it Indra that is spirit that's getting raised. And so we're going to kind of define our yes and no beforehand, before we roll. So if it's yes, then Indra's spirit's coming out of her body with the revenant thing of what's going on. If it's no, then we're going to say that our mysterious stranger from 2 episodes ago with Jude, he is going to have reached Shune's litany. That's what we'll decide with it. Okay, so we are giving ourselves 2 different results of what could happen here. So let's try that and roll. So yes, Indra, it's the first scenario. So Indra's corpse starts to kind of move a little bit, and the spirit starts to come out of Indra's corpse. And so she's kind of there. So we have to think, Tamra's going to react to this. I think that Tamra wants to get out of there as fast as possible. I think that Tamra knows what happened to Ruhiel, and I don't know if Indra will do the same thing, but she knows that she does not want to be near one of these spirits that are angry. The other way that we could approach it is we could ask the question, I'm going to ask the question, is Indra hostile? Because I feel like there's a chance, yes, but it could also be a no. If she is hostile, then Tamra's going to get the heck out of there. She's going to double back and maybe head towards the submerged passage. I don't know, but she's not going to stick around to find out. All right, so asking the question, is Indra hostile? Yes, so she's hostile. So she starts her face, I think like Ghostbusters here. I'm filming this on Halloween. We watched Ghostbusters last night, but she starts coming towards Tamra, and Tamra is just books it out of there. She's not heading towards the webs because she knows she'll get stuck. So she's heading back out the way that she came, and she's heading back out down this passage. I'm going to say that it's very likely that Tamra can swim. So we'll ask the question, can Tamra swim? Can she come into the submerged area? Yes, extreme. She is a great swimmer. So Tamra dives into the water, and her bag of holding is like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like it does not like becoming wet. So it tries to talk, but it's under the water. And she starts swimming forward down this sunken passage. And remember, we established in the last episode that, she can come up for air. She's trying to stay under the water. She's trying to get away from the spirit. I'm going to roll and ask, does this get her away? Is the spirit still chasing her, I guess, is the question. Does she escape the spirit? I'm going to say chances are likely. So does she get away from the spirit? So yes. So she gets away. So we're not worried anymore about Indra's spirit, but we know that it is back that way. It's something that we may have to deal with. Okay, and she comes through this submerged passage, and what does she come to? Let's roll up another room here. We've got just kind of a straight room. So the submerged room, what's the deal with this? 61 is going to be mud flow. Okay, that makes more sense why it is flooded. I mean, there's kind of like water coming in from the walls. Maybe there's some kind of a water source nearby or underground lake. And let's see if there's anything in the room, in this room details, that could potentially be of use to us. 33, curtain. Okay, so there's a curtain under the water. Interesting. Let's say that it's hanging from the ceiling, and it's kind of just in part of this room, and maybe that's kind of trying to conceal a passageway or something. Tamra has looked behind her and determined that, the spirit is not on her tail. So she's got a little bit of time to kind of explore this room. There's a curtain going down through the water. There's mud flow coming in from the walls. Let me see here also. Are there any mechanisms in this room? That's a good question. So let's roll for the Oracle. If we get a yes, we'll roll on the mechanisms table. All right, we got a 3 and a 3. That's going to be some kind of another unexpected event. The answer is no, there's not a mechanism in here, but something does happen. So we will roll for our unexpected event. Ooh, I just realized something. She jumped into the water. I think that might have burnt out her torch. Okay, the way that we'll handle this, did she drop her torch before she jumped into the water? I'm going to say chances are yes, likely yes. So we'll add the d6 there, but there's a chance that no. So 9, 6, okay, yes, she dropped her torch. There is still that unexpected event that we have to account for. So, and the quality of whatever the act, she's dropped her torch, it's away from the water, so that she can have a little bit of light that she can see in, and she can still see the contents of this room pretty well. I guess it's not that far down, but the torch is laying in the hallway behind her. And, she hears more like from Darj, her bag of holding, who does not like being under the water. We got to now determine what this unexpected event outcome is going to be. So we'll roll the dice for that. So the D10 is a 5. It's negative. And then the event timing is a 4. Soon occurs as soon as your ongoing action is completed. So this is going to happen when she's finished in the room. And what is the nature of the event? 3, an NPC near you does something unexpected. Okay, so our 2 NPC options are Evelyn, the warden, or it could be the mysterious stranger we haven't met. I think it's more likely to be him. So we'll ask the question, is it the mysterious stranger? With more likely yes, but if it's a no, then we'll say that it's Evelyn that has done something, and it's negative. It's not good for Tamra. Okay, so let's cut away from Tamra searching this submerged area real quick, and let's cut to our mysterious stranger. And I think he's reached the room with Shun's litany. So it's negative, but it's not like a really negative thing. So he is in the room with Shun's litany right now. We don't know where it is. And he sees the litany like floating. Like there's this kind of like pedestal in the middle of the room, and the litany is kind of like floating there. And there's like this kind of swirling green energy around it. And he's kind of like looking at it, and he's kind of approaching it. So we know that he is going to get the litany soon, and we don't know what's going to happen when he gets that litany. That's our negative thing that's happening, and we'll cut back to Tamra. So Tamra is still looking underwater for stuff. She's just going to search the best she can to see if she can find anything. She's going to be very thorough. She's going to check the corners. She's going to go check behind the curtain and see what's behind the curtain. And so let's roll to see kind of based on, she pulls back the curtain and she finds something. And we'll just keep up with our Knave rolls. What does she find? So she pulls back the curtain. 60. There's a nest. That's not good. There's a nest behind the curtain. So it looks like something has made the nest. Is there something in the nest? Is the next question we have to ask. We got a 1, which is a no. There's nothing in the nest. The nest is empty. Is there something of value hidden within the nest that will be useful to Tamra? Roll that. We're not going to add a probability. We got a 4. So no. So there's nothing in the nest that's useful to her. So somebody brought up to me the concept of the cascading no. And I've been trying to make sure I do that. And I kind of, it's an easy trap to fall into when you're solo role playing. But the idea is that you think of this cool thing and you say, is it the thing? And then you roll and then the oracle's like, no. And you're like, oh. And you're like a little disappointed. You're like, so is it this thing instead? And you think of this other cool thing and the oracle's like, no. And so that's what we call the cascading no. So what you should do is if you should determine if it's not this, then it's this. And you should just, regardless of whether it's yes or no, it still pushes the story forward. And I do feel like, the yes and or the no but, that we use for oracles, those are really nice because they allow you to move the story forward with whatever your next expectation is. And that is something that's a little bit interesting to me from Trey, is they don't use the yes but, no but. They use the yes and no and if you roll the extreme result, but they don't do the but for some reason. Okay, we'll probably edit that a little bit. So yeah, Trey doesn't use the but clause. There's got to be a better way to say that. Okay. All right. So she didn't find anything in the nest, and we should have decided beforehand what this was going to be. So if she doesn't find anything in the nest, then I think there's nothing else in this room that's of use to her. It's just a submerged room. And so I think she's going to back it up, get out of the water. And she's going to go back and she's going to try to pick up the torch. And she comes out of the water, and Darj is like spitting out water. He's like, do you know how unpleasant, uncomfortable that is? And she just kind of like shrugs it off. So now we have to decide Indra's spirit. I think because the way forward is still this way, like, that's the way that we need to go. I don't see, I mean, the other option would be to come back here and try to go through this room with the chains with the ghouls, which Ruhiel had told her about, so she wants to stay clear of the ghouls. There's this illusionary floor down here, which was, by the way, the example of the cascading no. If you watched my last video, that's a very good example of me asking the Oracle too many questions and being like, well, what is it? What is it? If you said no, what is it? So we're trying to get away from that. So I think, though, that she's going to kind of come back, and the torch is burned down another. So the torch is getting low. I almost think that it's worth coming back up to this room with the guardian and the fire and trying to like relight the torch or look for another torch, seeing if we can get like a fresh torch. And that will make a little bit more time pass. So let's roll 1, 2, 3 coming up. Do we have a random event happen on the way up to the room of the guardian? No. So the torches tick down 3 from going 3 rooms. And I'm going to say chances are very likely she's able to pull from this kind of bonfire that's up there and get a new torch. And just for the sake of getting the story moving forward, if we start, and that's the other thing too, is the questions that you're going to ask. Do they serve to move the story forward? Because I could say, well, does she get a torch from the bonfire? But if the answer is no, then she's just SOL. Like it doesn't move the story forward. It just kind of traps us. So that's why sometimes you have to make these assumptions so that you can keep your story moving forward. And that's perfectly okay in solo role playing. A lot of the time, if you do the thing, you just do it. Like you don't need to always roll a check. You don't need to always ask an oracle. Sometimes you just auto pass, and that keeps your story moving forward and it keeps things interesting. So she gets a new torch, and she is going to very, very carefully head back in this direction and come over to this corner and look around the corner. So we'll tick down the torch 1, 2, 3. She does whisper and ask Darj, is there danger nearby? And so he can tell her if there's danger nearby. And Indra, I think, would be considered to be very dangerous. So we'll ask the question there, is there danger nearby? And again, we're asking a question where what happens if the answer is yes? Because if the answer is no, we're good to move forward into this room. But if the answer is yes, there's danger nearby, then it's like, well, the story doesn't move forward. Because we'd have to go look somewhere else in the dungeon. And it seems, there could be a secret room. That's something that we could look for, like some secret doors or something. Yeah, we're still going to ask the question because there's a chance that Indra's there. There's some times past, we went back, refreshed our torch, came back. So Indra could have gone somewhere from Shun's Litany. We don't know. So we're just going to keep it with, we're going to say that it's likely that Indra's spirit isn't just hanging out in the room. All right, so we go 6 minus 2 is a 4, which is no. So she's not in the room. Okay, and Darj tells us, no, you're good to go. Proceed. She comes back into the room. And remember, we had triggered the trap. So the arrows have come out, the trap is triggered. So I think we are pretty safe to mess around with these mirrors now. So puzzles can be a little bit tricky also, because a lot of the time, if you're playing in a traditional game, then the game master might already have a solution or set of solutions. Whereas when you're solo role playing, there's a paradox that it doesn't exist until you come up with it. And so I'm just thinking a little bit about how the best way to do this is in a way that's going to be fun and interesting. I think we're going to make the assumption that these mirrors are loose and they can be turned, which Tamra finds out pretty quick. And when she turns the mirror, then there's like a clicking sound, and it opens up one of these 2 doors. Okay, so we don't know what's behind the doors. We'll just roll randomly to see which one opens up. So this bottom for our connecting piece looks like it's a T section, and we're gonna go like that, and we'll say that it kind of hits down and it goes right into this room right over here. Okay, so she's gonna head through. The stone door slides up and she heads in. Take down another torch. And she will look down this way to see what's that way. Hopefully we can get through some of these chambers here. And let's roll to see. All right, there is like a cross section up here. There's a lot of ways that this dungeon could go. So she'll carefully make her way over this way, takes down another part of her torch. And let's roll for a random encounter at this point. Don't get a 1, didn't get a 1. All right, so she's in this cross section, and she's kind of gonna look and see if she can see down these ways. 3. So all 3 of the ways have doors blocking them off. All right, She asks the question again to Darj. And she says, is there danger? And it's very likely that he knows the answer. Here's the thing. It's likely that he knows the answer. In fact, we're just going to say, yes, he does. He does know the answer. Okay, that's a no. So no danger. Okay, so he's like, coast is clear. And so let's just kind of approach these methodically and check this door to the north here and see, is the door locked? And if it is locked, what's the quality of the lock? All right, so the door is not locked. So the door opens into a room. And what is this room shaped like? It's just a connecting room between these two. Take off this box. Getting closer. So I think we're at the point where within the next 3 rooms, there is a chance. And right now the chance is low that this is the room with Shun's Litany in it. But we will ask the question, is Shun's Litany in this room? So it's highly unlikely. So no, Shun's Litany is not in this room. And let's just check real quick to see what is in the room. So, okay, so this room is kind of like tilted in a weird direction. And you know what? She knows that Shun's Litany is not in here. We know the room's kind of tilty, and she's not about that. She's going to go check out a different room. So let's take down our torch. We have to start being on the lookout for a way to get our torch relit, or get a new torch if we can. So let's check out this passage down here to our south. And this will put us, is the door locked? And if so, what's the quality of the lock? So 0 is extreme yes. And the lock is of a very poor quality, 2. So yeah, she'll pull out one of her iron spikes and try to bust this lock open, which will be a strength test. Since it's poor quality, we'll give her advantage. Okay, 13. That succeeds our default difficulty of 12. So yep, this lock breaks, falls on the ground, and the door swings open. What is in this area? Let's roll. What do we got? Straight passage again. We're gonna just re-roll at this point. We need no more straight passages. All right, so there is a chamber up here. Let's roll size of the chamber. It's smaller. I guess at average. So let's see here. Average chamber. And now we're rolling, and we're going to mark this off. And it's getting closer. So we're going to say chances are unlikely that this is the room with Shun's Litany, but it could be. So it's just minus D3 on the question. Is Shun's Litany in this room? So 4 is a no. All right, so Shun's Litany is not in here. What's in this room? So we're going to roll D100. And what I'm finding here is that some of the stuff in the Knave tables doesn't work for what we're trying to do. And so we're just kind of jumping between tables until we find the first thing that's going to work. And that's okay to do it like that. It's just another way that you can do these things. So looking at Dungeon first, 32. Dormitory. Okay, that does work. So she comes in, and this looks like a resting area. It looks like it's really old. Looks like nobody's rested in here for a long time. And so there are kind of these beds. Just draw them in there. Are there any remains in this room of like the inhabitants of whoever would have stayed in this dormitory a long time ago? And also, are there like treasure chests and stuff? I mean, not treasure chests, sorry. Are there like chests with belongings? I think that's a pretty obvious thing. So let's say on a yes, then we're looking for remains. On a no, then no, there's not, but there is something else. And we'll say in this case, it's like, you know, some storage. And she asks Darj, of course, is there danger nearby? Which he knows, and so we'll just ask the question of the Oracle here after that. So, and then what is the quality of whatever we find in this room with the quality die? So she starts looking under the beds. She starts looking around for any signs of possible remains. So yes, there are some remains in this room. Average quality of whatever she finds. So let's roll on our treasure table, and we're gonna just stick with the Shadowdark rulebook there. So she finds the remains of, why not? She finds the remains of 2 beings that were in that dungeon, and they're just at this point skeletons. Are they human? The human remains. 7 is a yes. So there are the remains of people. So people apparently at some point were stationed in this like dungeon area a long time ago. Who knows how long ago. And so she finds on the remains some treasure. 13, dull dagger. Bummer. So that's on one of them. But there's a second one. Let's find what's on the other one. 61. Bundle of 5 red dragon scales. Okay, so she takes those and she puts them into Darj. And you know what? The dagger, you know, it could help us, so why not? We'll throw it in Darj as well. So we've got 5 red dragon scales that are probably worth something. And he knows what gets put inside of him, being a magic sentient object. So he's like, ooh, what you got? Let's see here. So we can keep going, or we can come back up to the passage and look this way. She is going to look, and I'm just going to ask the question, is there like a torch? Let's ask the question, because we're trying to find a torch. And no modifier here. There's no likely or unlikely, but the answer is no. She did not find a torch. So let's kind of keep going this way and see what's goes down here. So her torch is getting very low. So that's a big concern. And let's roll on this. We've got a passage that goes this way. So really coming clear back here. She goes down the passage and she sees some light ahead. So we're going to roll until we get some kind of a chamber. All right. Comes to a chamber. And now we are going to roll. And we're going to see with, again, this is 6 of 7. So now there's no modifier. Is Shun's litany in this chamber? Okay, so no, but we do have an unexpected event that happens with 2 of the numbers being the same. Let's roll for our unexpected event. So it is on the D10 4, it's negative. Get a lot of those, aren't we? Event timing on the D6 is soon as our ongoing action is completed, which is, I guess, investigating this room. And then what happens or who is affected is 6 is your ongoing objective is affected. Okay, so I think the obvious thing is here, while she's exploring this room, our mysterious stranger man from a couple episodes ago is up at Shun's litany, and I think he's about to get it. So let's check out what's in this room real quick, and then following that, we'll cut over to the mysterious stranger wherever he is, which is nearby, and he's got the litany, or he's at least grabbing it. Okay, so what's in this room? And if you're like, no, I don't care what's in the room, let's just get moving with the story. Hey, we're getting there. And I'm going to be editing this, so I can really quickly make it so that, we just really quickly go over all of this. 3. There's an altar in this room. Is there anything else in this room? It is yes. There's something else in here with the altar. 66 is going to be a portcullis. Very interesting. So there's a portcullis. We'll just say it's over this door right here. And it's going to be hard to draw that, but we'll try to kind of make like a portcullis that way. Okay. And then there's an altar right over here. And one more question. We're allowed to ask the questions. Anything that we could use to potentially get another light source. Okay, are there torches in this room? No. Okay. So because we're getting close, I'm not going to mess with the altar. No, you know what? I will look on, around, and behind the altar for any potential treasure or equipment that would help. So does Tamra find anything just within the close vicinity behind the altar, for example? Are there any areas where she could get something? So let's roll for the altar first. And she's going to kind of tiptoe over and look through the portcullis. Does she see the chamber with Shun's litany within it? And we're going to say that at this point, it's likely. Not highly likely, but it's likely. So we'll add a D3 to our Oracle roll. So yes, this is the chamber. And she's looking through a portcullis. So she's kind of in an area right now where she is not able to get in there, which is going to be a little bit difficult. So there's this big room, and it's glowing green. And there's a pedestal in the middle of the room. And there's a figure in there. She sees somebody is standing there. There's all this kind of green energy swirling about. Does she see any passageways? Are there any other passageways in this room? And so the answer is no, it's just one room. So the portcullis is down, which means if the mysterious stranger is going to come out of this room, he's going to have to come through the portcullis. So this, does he notice her, I guess is the next question. His back's to her, so I'm going to guess and he's like totally focused on what he's doing, so I'm thinking we'll ask the Oracle, but the chances are like a very likely no, so we'll subtract the whole d6 in this situation. Does the stranger notice her? Does he check behind his shoulder? So 5 minus 1 is going to be no. No. And he's just totally absorbed in what he's doing, so she can see him. And what are her options? She could just watch him and see what happens. She could look around for a way to try to open the portcullis, but then he would definitely notice her. And we don't know if he is, if he's friendly or if he's hostile. We don't know what his goals are. If you recall with Junor, Junor did try to help him, and he did say, "Thank you, my friend," after Junor died. But that doesn't imply that he's friendly or hostile, but it does imply that he could at least be reasoned with or bargained with, talked to. Does she see the mechanism for opening the portcullis? And yeah, it must be hidden really well because we've got an 8 on our quality die. So in fact, we'll say that this portcullis can only be opened from within the chamber where Shun's litany is. It was designed to protect the chamber, so she doesn't have a way to get into this chamber. So as Tamra, I want to keep watching what this guy does with the litany. I do have this room behind me I could come check out, but I know that it doesn't have my goal. I know that my goal is specifically in this room. There could be something dangerous to me in this room. There could be something that could really help me in this room. But I think at this point, she knows what she's after. She knows that it's in there. And she's going to just observe and watch what happens. So what does he do with this litany? What does the mysterious stranger guy do? He looks like kind of like a scholar. He's a little bit younger, but he looks kind of grizzled, like he's been through a lot. We will just ask an open-ended question here with a verb and a noun to see what he does with it. Beat, rolling for our noun. Judgment. Beat judgment. So against his better judgment, I guess that the scholar is so excited. He's grabbed this thing and he's reading off the litany. He's reciting the enchantments, the spells. The green light is getting stronger in this room. Tamra can hear howling. Like she can hear like screaming. She can hear the noises of these restless dead throughout the dungeon. Just kind of montage again. We cut back to Junor and his, revenant spirit is coming out of his corpse. All the other corpses are found. There's 2 spirits coming out of their corpses in here. The whole dungeon is starting to shake like an earthquake as the mysterious stranger guy reads. Okay, so what happens next? I'm gonna just again ask an open-ended question. I think that's a good way to approach this. What happens next? And I know that we should be a little bit more proactive here, but we don't have a way to get in here, and this is all happening really fast for Tamra. Discuss purpose. Okay, discuss purpose. So this makes me think that the stranger, even though he hadn't noticed her before, I think Tamra, she heard the howling coming from down the hallway to her left with these, spirits are rising. She was turning to kind of look and seeing some green light coming from that room. And when she turned back, then the mysterious stranger guy is now facing her. And he is aware that she's there. He discusses purpose. He's going to reveal what he's doing. And right now, is this guy a villain? Is this guy a potential ally? I don't know. He does have the litany, and if I recall correctly, Evelyn didn't know that this guy was down in the dungeon, so he's come down a different way. That's for sure. I guess we should ask. This is kind of a big role right here because the question we ask can really direct the way the story goes. And so, and then there's the question of well, what way do I want it to go? My own inclination is I do want this guy to be an ally. I want him to help me get out, help Tamra get out. It's okay to ask leading questions. That's part of solo role playing. But you do have to realize that there are like consequences. If you don't get, then you should, so we should ask a yes/no question. But if we don't get the yes, then we have to figure out what the no is going to be. So I guess the question is he willing to talk? Is he willing to, we already know he's willing to talk, so never mind. That's not the question. It is wise. So she realizes that he could be a potential ally. And she's got slightly above average charisma. So maybe she can use some leverage. She does have the dragon scales. She does have Darj. Sorry, I'm just at an impasse. This is the climactic part of the game. And I do want it to be memorable. I do want it to be interesting. I guess we're just going to ask questions to figure out what it is. But there are things that we already know. So the scroll does allow you to control the dead. So are there spirits in the room with him? Chances are highly likely yes. There's a few spirits in the room standing there with him. And he's talking. What does he say? Because I don't know. Because I'm not the mysterious stranger, right? Let's look at our NPC table for Trey. This is kind of a cool way that you can roll up an NPC. So this is determining the mysterious stranger's kind of stance towards distanced. He's obviously distanced because he's standing kind of far away from her. So I guess he's distanced in terms of, warming up to her. So he's like, I'm surprised to see that you made it this far. And then let's see his personality. Is safe, calm, supportive, stable. Okay, so that works with him. He's calm. He has them. I'm just trying to stay alive. They sent me down to get that. And I think that she's going to try to persuade him to help her, basically. I know that he's distanced. We'll just have her roll a charisma test. Does she have any leverage? Because that would give her advantage rolling against him. I don't think she does. I mean, he's got control of the spirits, right? I guess this all just depends on if he's a bad guy or if he's a good guy, right? Because if he's a bad guy, that's a pretty binary way of looking at it too. So does he, is he inclined to help Tamra? That's the question. Okay, we got a 1. That's a no. He's not inclined to help Tamra. Okay. I really wanted him to, but I'm not going to control and force the story to go a certain way. He's very cool and distant. He's not going to help Tamra. I think that he kind of sends the spirits towards her. So Tamra's going to run for it. The spirits start moving towards her. She's going to make a run for it. She's going to turn hightail, run to get out of the dungeon. She's going to go back the way she came. She could jump into that room, but there's a big chance behind her that it could be a dead end. And we know that there are other spirits potentially in that room. I think we just have to hope that we can get out, right? Yeah, the portcullis stays down, keeps this mysterious stranger guy behind it. He sends the spirits forward, and Tamra runs out of there. And I think that she's fast, and the spirits don't move as fast. So I think that she is likely to be able to get away. So we'll just ask the question, does she get away from these spirits down here initially, adding the D6 to it? And how far does she get away? So yes, she does get away. So she's gone into this room, and there are most likely 2 spirits in here because of the shaking with the kind of the earthquake is that they're also going to come after her. And so she sees 2 spirits in there, and I think that Darj, her bag of holding, is like, danger, Tamra! And she sees them grasping towards her, and she's going to try to dive out of the way. So we will make a dexterity test. Okay, 12 minus 1. So she just barely, so we're going to do some fell forward type stuff. She barely gets through, but because she fell, one of the spirits kind of the hand catches her, and she feels this draining sensation from her body, and we will knock her down from 2 HP to 1 HP to show that she's taking a little damage of that. But she does get out of the room. Okay, she's back here, and she's going to keep running, and her torch is getting really low. So back to there, and she didn't see anywhere where she could light it, so we're kind of in a predicament here. Do the spirits in this room give chase to Tamra? 2 is 4, so no. So they're not chasing her. She's going to go to this room, and I think that is the rest of her torch. And when she's in the dark, in Shadowdark, you're kind of at disadvantage, like on everything. So she's in the room with the mirrors, and it's super dark, and she can barely see, and she's trying to hurry, and she's kind of familiar with what things look like. So I think she fills the wall to try to get out of this room. We know that these mirrors are portals, and this might be an easy way out. We'll ask the question, is there light coming from these mirrors? Since it's dark, maybe she sees something she didn't see before with the mirrors, the light in the mirrors coming forward. And I'm going to say likely on this one, so adding the D3. Okay, so no light coming from the mirrors. They're dark, 1 + 2. So I think that she's going to try to keep getting out of the dungeon. And I'm going to ask the question, does she encounter the spirit of Jeweler? That's probably one to ask the question. 2 + 3 is 5, which is still no. So she doesn't encounter the spirit of Jeweler. Okay, so she comes through, and she's still running through the dungeon in the dark. She stumbles into the teeth room, and I think that she can actually kind of see because there's fire coming from the staircase above, so she's able to maneuver between the teeth. And yeah, I think we're just gonna, again, fast forward a little bit, and she has managed to make it back to the cells room. So she comes bursting into the cells room, and Evelyn, she hears the rattle of the door being unlocked, and Evelyn, the halfling warden, comes into the room. And she's like, well, do you have it? She's referencing Shun's litany, and Tamra's like, no, somebody else got it. It's not there anymore. He has it. And she's like, what? Who? Some man, he looks like a scholar, right? So does Tamra buy this is the question. The dungeon is shaking, like earthquake shaking. There we go. I shook it on purpose that time. So I think that she does. I think the chances are really high that she does. And I don't really need a roll for that. I'm just going to say, yeah, she knows something's going on. She's like, all right, quick, get out of here. She's like, come with me. And she pulls Tamra and motions her to come through. And they leave into like what's beyond. But Tamra and Evelyn are both getting out of the dungeon. So that is the end for this adventure. So I know that this one was kind of messy, and I get it. Sometimes solo role playing is like that. You can choose your process. You can choose your style of play. You can choose the questions you ask. Part of me did want Tamra to get out of the dungeon. I'll admit that. I wanted her to get out of the dungeon, and she was the last character, and I remember when I made the characters, I think she seemed the most interesting to me. Just because I wanted her to get out of the dungeon doesn't mean she necessarily was guaranteed to make it out. But there are like things that like definitely kind of came to mind, like does she stumble and get stabbed on one of these teeth, And I guess I could have asked that question. That wouldn't have moved the story forward. That would have made the story come to an abrupt halt. And because we're doing a funnel dungeon, it would be perfectly okay to do that. But I didn't want to do it. I wanted to, I wanted somebody to get out of the dungeon. Not necessarily, it wasn't with Shun's litany. In fact, somebody else has it now, this mysterious stranger. And we don't know how he's connected to the necromancer. That Wolf is now in the clutches of the necromancer. But Tamra made it out of the dungeon. The dungeon is, there's an earthquake happening. Rooms are probably collapsing. And we could have made that a more detailed chase scene. There's all the, there's different procedures and stuff that we could have done. But I think we told an interesting story. I think we've got some interesting ways that this thing could go if we want to continue journeying in Mist Hollow. And right now, I'm not going to close myself off to that. So if we do more Shadowdark in the future with adventures set in Mist Hollow, we will be using Tamra as our protagonist. And there will be this kind of, I guess, a villain. So Tamra does become level 1, which if we play more of Tamra in the future, we'll level up her character and set her up like a standard Shadowdark character. The dungeon's kind of collapsing in on itself, so this entrance to the Shadowdark is going to be no more. The secret pits are probably no more. They'll probably just become a big collapsed hole in the ground. Somebody has this really powerful magic item that can control these spirits of the dead that are able to drain life. And there's also something going on with the necromancer in like a distant land, which will be a different game entirely that we play with Wolf. So I think that's it. If you have any questions, you're welcome to put them in the comments. If you think that I did anything incorrectly, if you would have handled it differently, I'm always open to hearing that kind of thing. You know, we all are approaching this hobby, this type of gaming very differently. And that's one of my goals, to just show you kind of just how freeform it can be in like a good way, that you can have something really exciting, that you can create a story and it can come out of, you know, almost nothing. You can just build off of those pieces. I know that for some people there's like, oh, there's a stigma, I don't know, solo role playing, whoa. But you know what, for me, no, this is like a totally viable, awesome way to play these games. And I've said that before, and I'll keep saying it, and I'll keep making videos about it on this channel so that people can, you know, realize that. Because yeah, I had a blast. I had a fun time playing through this. There were a few parts where I was like, what do I do? But I just kind of stepped back and I like talked through my process and what made the most sense, and I rolled where appropriate. And, you know, so I would invite you to approach it in a similar way if you're not sure. And I'm looking forward for what's next in the future with these videos. I do want to spend some time helping people understand how journaling games work, and I want to explore some journaling games on my own. I definitely want to make some more videos just on the way that systems work in solo role playing and how you can kind of choose how much control you want to have. Thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't yet. If you've made it through all the SoloDark videos, I'm super impressed. Thank you so much for watching this. I'm glad that these videos are helping some people understand. Again, one more time, this is just a way to solo role play. It is not the way. There is not the way. There are so many ways to solo role play, and it kind of takes a lot of similar ideas and you just blend them together in the way that works for you, that you are going to enjoy. So keep that in mind, and I'm gonna make myself stop talking. So thank you, my friend, for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.